sweats.
Sweats in general?
Mm-hmm. What about you?
I was going to say my black boots, but I feel like that's a recency bias. I had to look back. You know what it probably was? That brown hat.
Oh, yeah.
When we were doing all the festivals, I wore it a lot. What's your meal of the year?
Pizza.
Oh.
Yeah.
A pizza? Any one pizza?
Just the idea of pizza in general.
Well, that could win it every year.
Yeah, true. What about you?
I was going to say maybe that red curry shrimp I make.
Oh, yeah, that's really good.
But I think back to the summer and I was making all the sauces. I think barbecue chicken has to be
You did some amazing barbecue chicken.
I think that has to be the thing of the year.
Yeah.
My meal of the year.
Yeah.
What's your drink of the year?
Probably champagne.
You had a champagne-rich year.
I did.
You have more champagne-rich years than most people I know.
It's not always champagne. This was like
That's
actual
true.
champagne.
That's true. I think this is the first time maybe a coffee has made it into my list because I didn't drink coffee for so long. But maybe cold brew. All summer I was on that cold brew.
You did a lot with cold brew this year.
Every day, starting off my day right with black cold brew.
Wow.
Or I would go heavy on the condensed milk and make it like a Vietnamese style.
Oh, yeah.
What's your drug of the year?
Probably blood thinners. The thing I was most excited to take was once I got off the blood thinners, I could take anti-inflammatories again. I spent most of this year being like, man, this ailment would be like instantly fixed if I could just take an anti-inflammatory. What about you?
Cannabis. Or when I had that bad allergic reaction and then they gave me like, take these 3 pills.
Yeah.
1 a day for 3 days. That's it. Don't take any more. Tell everyone that you're taking them so they know. I don't even remember what it was.
Prednisone.
But it fixed my face.
Yeah. 3 days of prednisone and Indy looked like a whole new man.
The same old man. My skin didn't look like that of a navel orange anymore.
Oh, you did look like an orange.
Yeah.
It was alarming.
Oh, but we're going to start a podcast.
I'm sure this is what everybody wants to hear.
And
various ailments from the year.
Welcome, everyone. That's what we should do. Just list our injuries from the year. Oh, we both have extensive lists.
This year was a banner year in the medical
I don't even
department.
think it was. Look at the last 2 years. It's all been a real horror show the last 3-4
really
years.
Has. Wow. Okay. Well, 2025, I'm really hoping that
we're going to be healthy.
there's nothing suspicious going on in my body.
Suspicious. I have some suspicions about what's going on in your body.
Right now, wine.
All right, let's actually get into what we're doing. And welcome everyone to a year in review-ish episode of
I think we covered it.
I Love This, You Should Too. My name is Indy, Orange Skin Randhawa, and with me is Samantha, Suspicious Body Randhawa.
So suspicious.
Well, today we are going to do our things of the year because we talk about so much stuff on this podcast, but we don't often talk about things that are new. So this is going to be our chance. So we're going to go through movies, television, books, and one other thing. What's the other one?
TV.
Did
you say television?
Yeah, I think I did.
Movie, book, music. TV. And also TV.
Oh, and TV.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about our personal favorites from the year 2024.
Yeah. So
Not just things we saw this year, but are actually from this year.
From this year. And so maybe you'll get some new things that you can get into over the New Year's Eve.
Yeah, because we're doing this before Christmas.
Yes,
but
I was going to say over the Christmas break because Christmas break just started. So, but going into January. Indy, do you want to start us off?
Sure. What should we start with?
Movie.
So at the end of November, we were saying, we have to get ready for our things of the year. And I realized that the only movie I had seen, I think, that was made this year was Beetlejuice. Oh. And I didn't care for it.
No, we didn't love it.
It was fine.
That's fine.
I loved the old Beetlejuice. Go listen to that episode.
Yeah.
So in the last month, my workout routine had changed. So I was only watching newish movies during workouts now.
Yes.
And I sat down and watched a few. So I think I'm going to give a bit of a rundown of some other ones before I talk about my favorite. So for horror, I had seen a few. Late Night with the Devil was solid. In a Violent Nature, good concept. Yeah, it was fine. The Substance, I liked it. Not as much as everyone else. Stop Motion was kind of fun. Long Legs, that was a good one too.
I liked that one. It was fine.
Yeah. Monkey Man was a very good action movie. If you want to check that out. Flow was a really interesting movie. It's a Latvian animated movie, and there's no dialogue in it. It's just animals, and the animal sounds are made by actual animals, so they don't talk or anything like that. That was a good one. Spaceman, I liked. I did not finish because we were watching it, and you refused to finish it, so I might have to go and watch it on my own.
Oh, sorry.
Civil War was a pretty good one. I think that might be my runner-up. A lot of Americans don't like it, and they say, like, oh, it's a missed opportunity. Why didn't you say this and this? Why didn't you make this side the bad side and this side the good side? And that's not what Garland was doing there. He was making a movie about how war is terrible, and being a objective observer is its own kind of horror, because you are just watching and not contributing. And it's a good movie. And Kirsten Dunst is in it, and I'd never seen her looking like that. She's aged, of course, like people do. And she's playing like a serious role that doesn't, I don't think she smiles once in that whole movie.
Oh,
and
wow.
I liked her in that, but that was a good movie. And Nosferatu has not come out yet, and that was the movie I was probably most excited to see this year. But my favorite movie of the year was not made in 2024, but I'm not cheating because it wasn't released in any way that most people could see it until this year, because that movie is Hundreds of Beavers. Hundreds of Beavers was made a couple of years ago. The post-production took a long time, and then it was released just in some film festivals, and it wasn't until 2024 that it was out anywhere where the normal public could see it.
Right.
You saw me watching it and promptly then left and had no
I
interest
was
in it.
like, no thanks.
Could you tell the world what you thought of it? What it looks like?
It looks like it was made in like 1910.
Okay.
It's really nonsensical. There are beavers in it. And it's black and white.
Okay. I take issue with only one of those things.
What?
The nonsensical.
Oh yeah. Well, I only watched like 30 seconds of it, so.
So this movie does look like an 1800s live action Looney Tunes.
Oh.
So it looks old, and it is it's like mixed media as much as it is a movie, because there is an actor in it who is a live person, but then most of the time the backgrounds are completely animated, and it's kind of old-timey animation style. And then the beavers are people in beaver mascot suits.
Right.
And it's about this fur trapper or Applejack salesman, and he needs to catch a bunch of beavers to win the heart of his loved one, and hijinks ensue.
Okay.
When I first turned it on, I was like, okay, this is weird, and I admire the commitment to a bit. And then I was like, well, how long can this really go on for? I think this one, there's maybe no dialogue as well. There are some titles, like intertitles, like a silent movie, and there are a couple of songs, but I don't think anyone speaks in this movie.
Oh.
So it's weird at first, and then you're like, okay, it's kind of clever, but like I don't think I'm really going to love it for whatever it is, 100 minutes or something. And by the end, it was not just good, it was compelling. I wanted to know what was going to happen next, and it was something that I had never seen before. And how often do you watch a movie and you're like, I've never seen anything like that? It's been a very, very long time. And I was just talking about a Latvian movie with no dialogue about a cat that I had watched. And this is the one, like, this is something I'd never seen before. Go check it out if you can find it. If you think it's ridiculous and you'll hate it, you know what? Maybe you will. I don't know. I think it's just great. And I think maybe 20 years from now, other film nerds will be like, there is this movie called Hundreds of Beavers, and it'll develop like a real cult following. If it hasn't already, maybe this is much more popular than I think it is. I have yet to meet someone who has seen it. So if you've seen it, let me know what you thought. Did you hate it? Did you love it? I think it was really fun. It got to the point where I was laughing out loud at the gags that were going on.
Oh, okay.
I didn't buy in immediately, but it got me there by the end. And I think that's the sign of a good movie. It's not like, oh, this is different, I'm going to love it. I was very skeptical and it won me over. So go check out Hundreds of Beavers. It's on, I don't know where it is. It's self-distributed. So they have put it on video on demand platforms. So hopefully you can find it.
Okay. Well,
how about you, Samantha? What is your movie of the year?
So I didn't do a runner-up list of things I enjoyed. So you're gonna get one of each of these categories from me. So
that's what people want. I you know me, I can't stop talking.
Okay. That's why we have a podcast. So my thing of the year was the musical fantasy film Wicked.
I think maybe all of yours, I can guess what they're going to be.
Oh, I'm sure you can. So I believe earlier this season, I talked about the book that Wicked is based on, the life and times of the Wicked Witch of the West. And I have read it. I've seen the musical. I've seen Wizard of Oz. And I was so excited for this film. And it blew my expectations away and was just incredible. And I somehow managed to avoid a few spoilers that I have no idea how I did it. And then I also just was so happy with the casting, because when you have something as big as Wicked, I get worried about who they're going to put in it, right? And whether or not they're going to become those roles in do a good job at them. And so this was absolutely more than I expected, and was just absolutely a joyous thing to watch. And I loved it so much that I have probably seen it twice now after the first time that I saw it in theaters. And I just feel like I notice more little things every single time I watch it. And one thing that I really liked was that they didn't use a lot of special effects. They did most of the things in a studio or on the set, and things that they really easily could have used, what's it called? Not video monitoring. The when they make things that don't actually exist in film.
Depends. With a computer, maybe you're referring to computer generated images, CGI?
Yes, CGI. That's what I was looking for. So there's this opening shot of the farmland around Munchkinland, and they actually just planted millions of tulips. They hired farmers, they rented this farmland that they were filming on, and they just planted hundreds of different colors of tulips. And this flyover shot is just incredible, because you know that they're all real. And the sets were amazing. The costuming was so well done. And I just loved the little moments where you could tell that Stephen Schwartz, the creator of Wicked, the musical, got to do some things that he couldn't do in a stage version. So there was a lot of shots and things that I'm oh yeah, this is something that you wish you could do on a Broadway stage, but is kind of impossible. And so it just really made it more robust and kind of wonderful to watch. So Wicked. That's my thing.
You finished by saying Wicked and you did a dance, but again, this is a audio medium, and they don't get that your dance punctuated.
Yes, sorry.
That was your rating.
That was my rating.
Okay, that was a good rating.
Yeah.
You can't tell, but it clearly demonstrated that she liked the movie.
Yes, sorry. So yeah, that's it made me very, very happy to see that, and to get to experience it. I think we should move on to television. And I am going to pick the 2024 Netflix series Nobody Wants This. It stars Adrian Brody and Kristen Bell, and they play a sex podcaster and a rabbi, and they have this whirlwind kind of relationship, and their families get involved, and it's a lot of like talking about converting religions for somebody and how much you're willing to change in your life to be with the person that you love. And they're so charming, and it's just like a really kind of fun show to watch.
I can't picture Adrian Brody being like a fun counterpart to...
Not Adrian Brody, Adam Brody.
Oh, that's a very different tone.
Sorry.
You know what? I'm selling Adrian Brody short. He could totally do that.
Oh, yeah.
But this is an Adam Brody show, and I
Yes.
feel like that's a very different show.
Yeah, it is a very different show. I'm sorry. I'm reading off a screen, too. I don't know where that came from. But, yeah, it was fun. It was light. And it hit a lot of really good notes about having a relationship in your adult years and dating and kind of meeting someone who already has a very established life. Like, you don't usually get that when you're like 18 and meeting people. And so it was really interesting to kind of see them navigate more adult issues.
Would you say the show is a romantic comedy?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was funny. There's a lot of like funny moments and just a lot of like really sweet, heartfelt moments as well. Yeah. So Nobody Wants This on Netflix. What about you, Indy?
I do only have one, but I do have to make one caveat because maybe last year my show of the year was Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And then I talked about it in a thing of the fortnight a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And I said, yeah, it's a really good show. I should rewatch it. And then I rewatched it and I've changed my rating to saying it might be one of the best shows ever made.
Oh, wow.
Atlanta is fantastic.
Okay.
But that is not from this year. So my 2024 TV show of the year is Scavenger's Reign. Scavenger's Reign is I think 12 episode thus far. They might be getting a second season. I really hope they do. Animated show. And I guess you could say it's sci-fi in the sense that it is in the future, and it is about a group of people that were on a ship that has crashed, and now they are spread out on this alien planet, and they're trying to first find each other and then hopefully get home. Mm-hmm. So some people are in pairs, some people are solo, and they're trying to find each other and just survive on this planet. Mm-hmm. So it's a very sci-fi premise, but it's not a very sci-fi show. Maybe it's just that people think science fiction means one thing, and the science fiction part of it is the biggest part of the plot, and that is not the case here. It's a really character-driven show more than anything, but it has such a attention to detail and creativity in this world that they've made, more than maybe any sci-fi I've ever seen. The creatures and landscape are so alive and so imaginative, and the artwork is just fantastic. And sometimes it gets to be whenever I say meditative, I've used that for these really slow shows, and it's not quite that, but it's hypnotic at points because it's beautiful, and there's this kind of music through the movement of everything on it. It's a really good looking show. You called it That Scary Show because you came in once and it was something scary, but it's usually not scary at all.
I picked the most interesting moments to come in and view what you're viewing.
And that was pretty scary.
Yeah, it was a spooky part.
But the plant and animal life is so interesting on this. One of my favorites, to kind of give you an idea of what it's like, is there was this one plant that if it stings you with its thorn, it extracts a tiny bit of your blood, and then you keep going on, but you get sicker and sicker. And that plant has used your blood to grow a clone of you, essentially.
Oh, that is scary.
And then that clone, which is still a plant, comes to find you and bury you because you will get sick and die, and it's going to kind of take your place. And then it wants to join the group that you're with and infect all of them. And then the dead body is what grows the seed of a new plant. And you have the urge to infect other people with the seed. So like really complex and kind of thoughtful energy is being put into all of these creatures and plants and everything. But when it gets down to it, my favorite part of it is this really heartbreaking character stuff that's often happening. Not all heartbreaking, it's not all really sad, but it is a show that is trying to talk about like the nature of humanity when it's stripped down and you're on your own. What is it like? Are you a terrible person? Are you going to be hopeful? All of that comes through. So it's fantastic. It's a great show. It's only one season. So go check out Scavenger's Reign.
Okay.
And next, let's go through and do music.
Okay.
And we'll talk about our albums of the year. This one I do have a bit of a list because there were a lot of artists that I love that put out new albums this year that I didn't love as much. Still good, but not my albums of the year. Light Verse by Iron and Wine. Camera Obscura put out this pretty good record called Look to the East, Look to the West. There's a new Childish Gambino, but it's not even in my top 4 favorite Childish Gambino albums. Jack White put out No Name, but not in my top 4 Jack White related albums. Mdu Mokhtar put out a new album. That one was pretty solid. New Killer Mike, 2 years in a row. Songs for Sinners and Saints. It kind of has a lot more of a gospel-y influence. That's a good one. And then some new things I got onto Les Amusants d'Afrique put out an album called Muso Dance. That one is worth checking out. And then some artists that I've talked on this podcast about already. Haku is this 4-piece Japanese band that puts out singles mostly because that's how music works now. You don't make albums as often.
Right.
So they put out some really good stuff. XG has some good stuff coming out this year. And Glass Beams, I talked about on the podcast. They have an album called Mahal that is a great album to put on and relax to. But my album of the year is something, again, we've talked about quite a bit on this podcast. Do you know what it's going to be?
I'm not 100% sure.
It's The Long Way from Nicolette and the Nobodies. And you can hear us talk all about it and talk to Nicolette herself if you just go listen to our Calgary Folk Fest episode. But I always like to talk about someone who's probably not getting as much press as some of these other bigger names. So Nicolette and the Nobodies are a country band out of Guelph, Ontario, Canada. And they kind of play more of a throwback style because I do not care for most country that's come out in the last 20 years, but I really like a lot of older stuff. And this is more in that Tammy Wynette, Dolly Parton kind of vibe than it is. I couldn't name a lot of new country singers. So it's classic. It's great. I'm not going to talk about it too much. Just here's a little bit of it.
So baby, please show up. I need you to show up. 'Cause I've been waiting for you to show up. Show up for me. Everyone's telling me that I need to be strong.
So my 2024 album of the year is Nicolette and the Nobodies album, The Long Way. How about you, Sam? What's your... I feel like I can guess this one too, but let's tell everybody, what is your album of 2024?
So I have an honorable mention because I feel like I need to prove to everybody that I don't just listen to Taylor Swift. So I got really into, well, this is kind of because of Taylor Swift, but I got really into Gracie Abrams.
Is that someone who has toured with Taylor Swift?
Yes, so she has been the opener for Taylor Swift for quite a few shows. Not the show that I went to, but once Taylor Swift came back to the US, she was opening, and she also started some of the US dates at the beginning of the tour. So I didn't really know who she was at the beginning of the tour, but then I knew who she was closer to the end of the tour. And I've gotten really into her 2024 album, The Secret of Us. So I wanted to give her a little honorable mention because I've really enjoyed her album quite a bit over the last couple of months. But my number one thing of the 2024 music year is The Tortured Poets Department by Taylor Swift.
You smoked, then ate 7 bars of chocolate. We declare Charlie Puth should be a bigger artist. I scratch your head, you fall asleep like a tattooed golden retriever. But you awaken with dread pounding nails in your head. But I've read this one where you come undone. I chose this cyclone with you. And who's gonna hold you like me?
It is her 11th studio album, and it had 2 volumes basically. So she released the first half of the album, I guess, at midnight Eastern time, and then 2 hours later she released the second half, which brought it up to 31 songs. And it's an album that she wrote while she was on tour, and also while she's been on tour, she broke up with her boyfriend of 5 years. She had to continue performing through all of that, and also continued writing music, had a bit of a short relationship in there, or situationship, and also then met Travis Kelce and is in what seems to be a very happy relationship. So you get
until the next album comes out, then we'll see.
Then we'll see. But yeah, so you get this like really interesting mix of breakup, bad choices, and then like I'm so happy. Kind of all in one album. And you get a really good look at kind of her musical range, because she does do a lot of really different things. And then this also had 2 of my favorite kind of guest appearances in Post Malone and Florence from Florence and the Machine. So I really, really enjoyed it. And I got to see some of it live when I was in Paris. And I just think that it's such a good album because it's got so many different facets to it. And so like, no matter where you are in your life, you get to like kind of enjoy part of it just based on what you're doing in your life. Yeah. So that's the Tortured Poets Department. I really enjoyed it. Shall we talk about our books of the year?
Sure.
So my book of the year is also to do with Taylor Swift. It is a book written by Sarah Chappelle, who runs a blog called Taylor Swift Style and an Instagram account. And Sarah has made this kind of following on finding what clothing pieces Taylor Swift is wearing when she's photographed and posting them on her Instagram and on her blog, and writing a little bit about it. And because she's been following Taylor Swift for so long, she has some really interesting insights and is able to kind of call back to past things that Taylor Swift might be referencing with her outfits. And she just released a book called Taylor Swift Style, Fashion Through the Eras. And it's a really beautiful, just like coffee table book, because it has so many gorgeous photos in it. But her insights into a lot of the outfits and where she was in her career, I think the book makes itself really friendly to someone who might not know Taylor Swift as well. And you get to kind of see some throwback stuff, some new stuff, and the kind of dressing that Taylor Swift does around each kind of album that she's released, because she does dress in a different way for each album that she's released. And a lot of the outfits before she even announces the album are hinting at what's to come. So when she has a big style change, you can kind of tell that something is coming. So I really enjoyed this book, and I think it's fun to look at, even if you're not as big a Taylor Swift fan as I am. Would you like to tell me your book of the year?
Every year I have to cheat on this because I don't read new books, but I read 3 books that were actually published just this year.
Whoa.
So I read Hip Hop is History, which was very good. I think it's Questlove's best book. I've read all of his work, and this one is the best. I read Horror Movie by Paul Tremblay, but we talked about that, not last episode, next episode. So I'll tell you about it then. But my 2024 book of the year is The City and Its Uncertain Walls by Haruki Murakami. So this is my first one that's like a big name. Everything I've talked about so far has been kind of smaller, but Haruki Murakami is very well known. This book was originally released in 2023, but the English translation only came out a couple of weeks ago. So I got it right away and read it all up and really enjoyed it. I would say it's probably not in my top 5 or 6 Murakami books, but it's still a good book. Speaking of which, out of 11, where would you put Tortured Poets Society?
Tortured Poets Department?
Yes. I thought it was Society, but I'm thinking of Dead Poets Society.
That actually happened a lot when she first announced what the album was called.
Yeah.
There were people talking about it on like TikToks or like on news and stuff, and like they were saying Society a lot, and people were like, it's not Society, it's Department.
Where does the Department rank?
I think number 5.
Okay, right in there.
Right
you
in
know
the
what? I think this is probably a number 6 Murakami book, but still book of the year. So it is hard to describe what this book is about, because if I just tell you, it makes no sense. It has a few concurrent plots. One is just something of a man who quits his job and goes to work in a library in a small town.
Yeah.
And that's very easy. But then there's also a different place, universe, world. You're not quite sure. Like, is this a physical place? Is this place in your mind? Who knows? But this is an author who, in this book at least, and in a lot of his books, ghosts, shadows, memories, and like actual people, like that we would think of as an actual person, they're completely interchangeable, and none has more meaning than the other, or is more real or less real, because that's how he works. And it's kind of a companion piece to the 1985 novel Hard-Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World, which I think is a bit better, and still that one's not one of my favorites. But at its heart, it's a love story, not a love story, a story about love, but not a love story, because it's about loves that you don't get over, more than it is the story of that love. It's about living without something that you could have had but don't for whatever reason. That's a big part of it. And I get when people don't like this kind of thing, because sometimes the problem, but what I think of as the strength of these types of his novels, because some are very literal and it's just people in a house talking to each other and that's what it is. And some are like this. And I get that it can be frustrating when you're in this world where you're so far removed from our reality and things are so interchangeable that the meaning of what something means is endlessly deferred. When things can mean anything, doesn't anything mean anything?
Oh.
Right? And
Whoa.
and that's the weakness to some people, but to me that is a strength of it, because I like thinking about that kind of thing. So I'm not going to talk about it, because you can't really talk about Murakami unless I'm sitting you down for an hour, and nobody wants that. So go read The City and Its Uncertain Walls by Haruki Murakami. There is an English translation out now. Are we all done?
I think we're done.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think some of these, like music and movies, are a good representation of what this podcast is.
Absolutely.
And the book too, right? Because mine is like, what is meaning? And yours is, an Instagram person wrote this. And I don't want to say that like one is good and one is bad. I think they are both so different, and that is representative of what is happening in art, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing is more valuable than the other. A Taylor Swift outfit book has as much meaning and value behind it as my nonsense of whatever I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Wicked has made $500 million by now, and Hundreds of Beavers has been seen by like 500 people.
Wicked has made $540.3 million.
There you go.
Yeah. And Hundreds of Beavers, I'm sure, has a place in the list.
Let's look it
well.
up. Can you find out how much money has Hundreds of Beavers made? Also, I'm curious of how many albums were sold of Nicolette and the Nobodies The Long Way versus Taylor Swift's Tortured Poets Department. I feel like it's going to be pretty different.
Hundreds of Beavers made $147,000.
Oh, it's almost $1 million.
Yeah.
That's
pretty
big.
close.
This movie was not made for anywhere near that amount of money.
Yeah.
Good for them.
$750,000. Yeah.
Good work, guys.
Good work, guys.
a little different.
Yeah, it is just slightly.
I bet the Nicolette versus Taylor difference is higher. That sometimes that is harder to figure out how music works these days.
Yeah. I think they're also very different artists and in very different places in their careers.
True.
Yeah. Well, that's 2024, guys. And we're happy that you listen. And we can't wait to launch into 2025 next week.
I could wait.
You can wait?
Yeah, I could take a few weeks.
Oh, I'm like so ready for 2025.
Oh, I thought you meant for the podcast stuff. I need some time away from this.
Oh, no,
It just doesn't stop, huh?
Yeah, it
Cool.
just every week. Every single week.
Every week.
Well, we'll see you in 2025. Bye, everyone.
Goodbye.